Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the Stop, Look, and Listen podcast. This week, we have the privilege of welcoming singer, songwriter, entertainer, actress extraordinaire, Miss Ann Nesby.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to Stop, Look, and Listen.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. How have you been holding up?
Well, we've just been staying out of the way
That's smart.
and doing the best we can.
Right. Yeah, because you're in Atlanta now, right?
I am. I am in Atlanta. And so
And
I
I've been
can sing
here.
and yes, yes. And spikes.
Right. All because your governor is, um, I guess, thinking that this is something not to be afraid of.
Well, I think Sister Keisha got that under control.
Oh, exactly. Salute to her. Salute to Mayor
Yeah,
Bottoms.
by all means.
All right, so let's get into it. So let's talk about how you got discovered and working with um, the late great James Cleveland.
Well, I've always been in church all my life, and absolutely um, always been gospel music. That was my root.
Hmm.
And growing up in a Baptist church in Joliet, Illinois, right outside of Chicago, maybe 30 minutes, my church was a singing church, a very talented church, and participated in a lot of um, talent shows and contests. We did the Quaker Oats contest, and of course, we did musicals every fourth Sundays, like most Baptist churches was doing back in the day. You don't know nothing
Hmm.
about that, I'm sure. But we did that, and I would see the likes of Inez Andrews, the Staple Singers, and um, of course, I would be just amazed by their presence and the way they sang, and um, I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So my sister was a part of the gospel music. Fast forward, my sister was a part of the Gospel Music Workshop of America, and she did a recording, and she convinced me to go the next year, the following year.
Hmm.
And I was singing with Reuben Lightfoot in a group out of Chicago. And I went along with Reuben. Reuben and my sister were really responsible for getting me to the Gospel Music Workshop. And there I ran into, as we know him, Mr. Clean, Reverend Richard White, Bishop Richard White, we call him. Ran into him, and I had paid my very first faith offering in a service, um, a revival service that he was working in, and I remembered him, and I really wanted to have an opportunity to tell him that. And when I did, when I told Reuben that, he said, I want to make sure you tell Clean that, because he would enjoy that. And when he introduced me to Mr. Clean, uh, Mr. Clean, Reuben told him that I could sing. And in turn, Mr. Clean said, well, that's great, because I have a song that I don't have a lead for. And of course, the Gospel Music Workshop is such a network for aspiring artists and people that were singing and not having a platform in their community and around them, an opportunity for them to learn church format and connecting with other artists, musicians and directors, and even radio hosts as well. So there were so many things that I learned through that gospel music workshop. I sang the song with Clean, met Reverend Cleveland, and of course, I was in the Chicago chapter of the Gospel Music Workshop of America with Essie Lane, who is the president of the Allegra um, group. And when they found out that I was going to be singing a song, they rallied. Of course, everybody rallies around that chapter there.
Right.
So they rallied around me. And the next thing I knew, before the recording that I met Reverend Cleveland on, I went to the very first morning service where they have communion. And it was the Queen of Gospel, of course. She always thought that I was her baby, and she was a part of the Allegra chapter as well. And she would definitely say, I need you to sing this song for me. I need you to do this song for me. And that particular morning, she was supposed to sing for the communion, and she wasn't feeling well. So she had Reverend Cleveland to have me to sing the song. Mm-hmm. And from there, every year, Reverend Cleveland would make sure that I had a song to lead with the workshop. So that's my initial success. And it was so wonderful to have the opportunity to work with him, because he was the gospel artist that was early on successful, and we all listened to him, and he sang the music all over the country. And it was just a blessing to even be in his company and to learn from him with such amazing talent and knowledge.
Okay. So from that point to where most of us on the mainstream level first got to hear your voice, and that's your time with Sounds of Blackness. How did that come about? Did you have to audition, or did they the word travel sort of fast as far as this amazing voice that was a free agent?
Well, actually, I had worked with Donald Lawrence through the workshop. Mm-hmm. And after singing one of his songs with the workshop, he called me and said that he had a theatrical show that he wanted me to do. Okay. And I did the show Sing Hallelujah that went to Broadway. And I worked with him. At the returning home from that, I went to visit my sister in Minneapolis. And Sounds of Blackness was working on the Christmas show, theatrical show that they do called The Night Before Christmas, which is one of the projects that Sounds of Blackness ended up receiving a Grammy for. Mm-hmm. And they were in the midst of rehearsing, and they needed a mother. And I knew Gary from years before. My sister had been in Minneapolis since she finished college and became a part of Sounds of Blackness. So I went to visit Gary, supposedly at the rehearsal, and my sister had set it up to where I could audition for the play without me knowing, because she wanted me to stay there for a while. Uh-huh. So when I got there, Gary asked me to come up and sing for the group, and he introduced me as one of his longtime friends. And they were in the process, 3 people that had done the show as the mother was not able to do it. And they didn't tell me before I sang for the group. And when I got finished singing, I sang the song, Give Us This Day. Mm-hmm. And when I got through singing, the group started clapping and said, yeah, give her the part. And I was looking in amazement, and Gary said, okay, I have to tell you that this is usually how people audition. They sing a cappella, and the group hears them, and we decide together. So he said, we're looking for someone to play the role of mother. He said, you only have 2 weeks though. And I was like, well, I just came down for Thanksgiving, and I ended up being there until Valentine's Day. I wore my brother-in-law's jeans and sweatshirts because after we did The Night Before Christmas, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis came to the show. They asked me to stay on. Uh, Gary asked me to stay on and do the music for Martin that we used to do. It was another theatrical show, and we sang freedom songs and did presentations and honoring Dr. King on his birthday. So as you see, it was from November to January at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis came to the show, and they were working on Janet's album at the time. And just to get her out of the monotony of being in the studio, you know, when you're working on a project, it can be pretty boring while the producers are working on their part, you're sitting there. So they had the Minneapolis Sound, they all had relationships as to where they supported each other no matter what they were doing. Sounds of Blackness would be um, the opening group, singing songs of freedom and singing gospel songs for the beginning, and Flight Time would be the band that would be the dance out band.
Mm-hmm.
And Sounds of Blackness was the choral sound that you heard on all the Minneapolis Sound. So that relationship had them to come to the music for Martin, and Janet was so excited about the sound that Sounds of Blackness had. She was inspired to tell them, guys, you got to sign this group. There's nothing like this out there. And she was like, this right here is definitely the music of our people and what we need right now. And they called us together after the show and told us that they were getting ready to start a label, and they wanted Sounds of Blackness to be the first group on the label as a means of giving praise to God for all the blessings that he had given them. They wanted to do something gospel first. And that's how Sounds of Blackness came about, with the evolution of gospel. And they included all that music, the music of a people.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually had recorded some music they had, and they were going to actually use another artist to be featured on the project. And I went in just to do a scratch vocal. And after I did the scratch vocal, Jimmy Jam said, I think we're gonna go with you. He said, because I think you've had some experience at this. And of course, I had to tell him that it was definitely the Gospel James Cleveland Gospel Music Workshop. So in looking back, you know, all of that experience was a blessing, and God preparing me for the opportunity to be with Sounds of Blackness. So being in the right place at the right time and obeying God, there when he opens the door is always important. And that's definitely how me leading Sounds of Blackness came about. I wanted to do that one song and ended up leading 6 songs on that particular project.
Okay, so let's get into Optimistic.
Yes.
Optimistic is my favorite song of all time.
Oh, I
I
thank
just want to
you.
let you know that it's
That,
gotten me through. It's got me through a lot of tumultuous times,
oh, awesome. That is one of
and
my favorites too.
and I still play it today, and I think it's relevant now more than ever.
Hmm.
So, could you
And
just talk about the behind the scenes process and how that song resonates with you whenever you sing it?
absolutely. Um, as we took the journey with Sounds of Blackness, that first song, Optimistic, it was an encouragement to a lot of us in the group, because the core base of the group was a Christian group that sang, of course, like I said, the music of a people, um, like in the vein of a Duke Ellington that sang all the music, and the poetry of a Langston Hughes, a mix of everything. We touch on everything and we don't leave out anything. So when we were recording Optimistic, I was in the studio with Terry Lewis, um, and Jimmy Jam. He and Jimmy Jam had done the music for Optimistic and everything. And we were, talking about what this song meant. And it was meant to encourage and uplift the people. And the music, all the music that we had previously done on the project was music that was meant to touch the heart and to encourage people to look up and to be strong and unite as a people. And I think it was kind of a movement at the time. It was a Black movement, and cross colors, and brothers and sisters uniting. And I think I can call it a woke moment. Mm-hmm. We were having, African Americans, we were having a woke moment, wearing tikis again, as we did in the 60s and 70s, and afros, back to afros. And so Terry wanted to really do something that would unite us, not only as for the young people, but something that would unite every age group that we could relate to. And Terry and I, he's such a philosopher, we would get into conversations about the Bible and talking about God, and just having a good time. And so that's where a lot of those lyrics were born. And so when we were recording it, we went in with that feeling. And I always say, when we were doing promotions, in the interviews, I would say, it's music that's from the heart. And whatever you do from the heart, it reaches the heart. So they started to call it feel good music. Mm-hmm. And I think we just kind of continued on with that, that optimistic. It was a kind of a continuation of Earth, Wind, and Fire, if you think about it.
Okay.
Keep your head to the sky and those kind of things, and the pressure. It was all about committing to build the character and to build the strength of a people, and to encourage us to keep on no matter what's going on around you, to keep looking up and know that there are answers and that things, that it will get better.
Right. Okay, so during your time with Sounds of Blackness, you all amassed tremendous success, winning a few Grammy Awards.
Thank God.
And then, I mean, obviously, with a lead singer of a group, or in Sounds of Blackness case, an ensemble, the lead singer is sort of looking at solo opportunities. How did that come about? Was it something you always envisioned, or did Jam and Lewis sort of nudge you to that point?
Actually, I always envisioned myself just doing just a straight up gospel music, mm-hmm. But I loved all music. And once I started working with them, I knew that it wouldn't be honest of me to pigeonhole myself just in gospel music, when my love, and I grew up listening to Chicago radio. So of course Motown, Stax, all those Chess, being influenced by all that music. And of course my father and mother sang at home in quartet groups. So I had such a rounded view, and my love for music was so vast, because I lived in Rockford, Illinois, and we had no Black radio. So then we were forced to kind of listen to grassroots music, listening to Annie Lennox and Human League, and listening to any of the grassroots music, even country music. Mm-hmm. and you just make the best of everything. So when we began to get ready to sign the contracts, after we'd finished the album, we realized, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis realized that I was not a member of Sounds of Blackness yet, because I just went there to work.
Okay.
And when they realized that, they wanted me to sign a deal, because I mean, if you think about it, putting all that work into an artist that's not signed, it would, it could possibly be very, very hectic, in that you've given me all this play and you've given me all this airtime. So before they even released the project, they signed me to a solo deal. And they had the option to move on that solo deal whenever they are ready to do my solo project. And I think a lot of people thought that I got the big head once that first album came out, and I wanted to break away from the group. But it was a decision that was made by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis to do a solo project on me, because they were exercising their option to sign me as a solo artist before I even went in with Sounds of Blackness.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So like your music, it's like a bowl of gumbo with like a mixture of gospel, some R&B, and some dance.
Dance and jazz. I even did music with Boney James.
Okay, I love Boney.
I do too.
So, but you were talking about like growing up near the Chicago area, and I can definitely see in your music with the house influence and how you've worked with Frankie Knuckles and Steve Silk Hurley.
Absolutely. Two of my all-time favorites. Yes, I love them. And having the opportunity to work with Frankie Knuckles, I can't even express the knowledge that I gained from him. I had an opportunity to do house music, and being from the Chicago area and having that knowledge of house music, it was a surprise, because I didn't realize they had just started doing those remixes and everything. And when I first heard what they did with Pressure, the remix that Frankie did, I definitely wanted to speak with him because I knew him from the Chicago scene.
Right.
And it was just love at first sight. And I had an opportunity to travel, and we were all the way in Amsterdam, and Frankie was there doing a show, and he reminded me of how blessed we were to be able to be all the way over in Amsterdam off of some house music that started in Chicago. So I mean, that experience with him, and he was the master of house music, and the knowledge he gave me, I used it for other house projects, working with Louis Vega and Thunderpuss and so many other house, I can't even name them all, Moose T, having an opportunity to work with the greats. It was because of the love for house music that Frankie had instilled in me. And it was a joy, and I absolutely enjoyed it. In fact, I'm working on some stuff right now that we're going to be putting out. And I can't wait because I'm excited. It kind of made me, I think the house music is kind of going back to that era that Frankie first started, because, a lot of it had gone away to techno and that kind of thing.
Yeah, EDM.
EDM, absolutely. But being able to take a look back and do something like that again, I was excited. So we got some music coming out real soon that I think you would enjoy.
I'm looking forward to it because like house music, the perfect marriage is with a powerhouse vocalist such as yourself and like a Martha Wash, you know.
Oh my
So
God, she's one of my favorites. She's one of my favorites. Lolita Holloway.
hmm
She was one of my friends from Chicago, and she was one that I used to listen to as well. Um, so those kind of voices, it lends itself to the power of those. I can go all the way back to that West African polyrhythms,
right.
those drums, and it gives you a whole different feeling. And when you're in there, and then they put those 808s on there and all that deep bass,
hmm
it, you can't help but to just think about something soulful. It's like you said, a pot of gumbo,
Yes, indeed.
trying to soul it out, trying to work with that feeling and express the feeling that you're having to those that will be listening.
hmm So then, like highlighting some more of your solo material, such as "I'm Still Wearing Your Name," and
Uh,
um, and put it on paper, featuring the Reverend Al Green.
yes, yeah. Now you know that was one of the highlights of my life.
hmm
Of course, I have several, but I tell you the top three that reign high with me with the R&B industry and soul music like that um, would be definitely being on tour with Luther Vandross as a very first tour.
My favorite R&B singer.
Love my favorite male singer.
hmm
Um, my Luther Vandross, of course, Aretha Franklin. I was introduced to Aretha Franklin by Luther Vandross at the
Okay,
Grammy Awards, and we won a Grammy Award. That
nice. Congrats.
yes, yes, thank God. That's for Optimistic.
uh-huh.
And being able to sing with um, Reverend Al Green, those were definitely highlights for me. And um, singing that music, as I said before, it leads you back to my roots in the Stax and Motown era,
hmm
chess music, where they sang that soul music, and there was no getting around it because you knew that it was definitely Soul Town.
Right.
So, Put It on Paper was a song that I was really going through a hard divorce. And as I said, I wrote things that were, when I write a lot of times about things that I go through, things that my friends go through. I write about the problems, and then I try to um, not leave the song without giving a solution of what I did to make it through my issues. So, of course, sadly enough, that was a song about my divorce. Put It
Okay.
on Paper. And My New Life with Mr. Timothy Lee, who's my manager, and we're still working together as well. And then having an opportunity to put it on paper. So those were kind of flip flops.
Uh-huh.
Those are kind of flip flop songs, and they turned out to be a couple of my good ones. I call them my good ones. And then also one of the songs, the first song I ever wrote while I was recording. In fact, I was recording, I believe,
hmm
and getting prepared for my solo project. Patti LaBelle was coming in the studio for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis to do a song for her.
hmm
And the first song that I had written for my project was Right Kind of Lover.
Okay. We
And
all remember that.
and Terry Lewis came in and he said, um, Patty's coming in. He said, and we're going to be needing a song for her. And I was thinking, it probably would be a good idea if you had an opportunity to be around her and get to know her, and and have an opportunity. It would be good for you, because they encouraged us to write, because they knew that it was the lifeline for every artist to be able to write and have their publishing. As we realized that the pioneers had a lot of their music and publishing stolen, so they taught us to write for yourself, and um, and make sure that you keep your publishing, because that was what and the artists were missing, being able to stand on their own feet and take care of themselves after the career is over. And they talked about how the wolf would come.
Uh-huh.
It's either feast or famine, and what have you done for me lately? And if you ain't writing, then you ain't got no money at the end of your career, because they don't spend it all on videos and other things that you need, and you yet sit owing that advance money.
Go ahead and preach. Tell us about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I teach that to young people all over the place, and I tell them, this is the music business. This is the music business. It's not show and tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, somebody got to take care of your money, if you have some. Because if you don't have a good attorney, a good manager, you could wind up in slave contracts, because you don't understand the language in the contracts they give you. And like I said, the writing is important. And sometimes artists come into the business wanting to sing, and they're not really singers.
Mm-hmm.
And when they realize they're not singers, they feel like they need to leave with the love that they have. But you have to realize there are other departments. There are other departments that you can work in. And it may not be all singing. You may have a love for the music. You may go into promotions, or you may be a music attorney. You may be an accountant, because every artist needs a good accountant,
Mm-hmm.
you need a good attorney, and you need a good manager. And it's not always your family that can handle the things that you need. They may feel like they understand some things, but it's like having a stage mother that may not understand a contract. And you need a good attorney, a good accountant, and at least try to learn to write, or whatever you do, get some education. And if you're shopping a project, have something tangible. Have something tangible. You can set up a studio at home now,
Right.
because you can release your own music. But if you need help, try and get somebody, save some money, have somebody to record something of you. So you just not, when you have an opportunity and you run into artists that you feel like can help you, have something tangible, have something in your hand, something, and not say, I can sing, I'm an artist and I'm doing this, but I can't give that to somebody else. I can't introduce you because I don't know what you sound like,
Mm-hmm.
even though you're telling me you can sing. But you have to have something tangible. At least prepare yourself for the opportunity when the door opens.
Okay. So you were speaking of your songwriting credits and working with Miss Patti LaBelle, doing Right Kind of Lover, and
Another joy of my life.
when you when you talk about love, but you
Yeah.
also you also worked with Miss Gladys Knight on
Yes.
Home
Yes.
Alone. So even though this interview will air after the versus battle
Yes.
as scheduled, do you have a prediction? And then just talk about, I guess, the experience of working with both of these legends.
Let me tell you, these beautiful queens were inspirations in my life because I listened to them. Gladys, I learned all their backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
just in case one day I may have an opportunity to sing background for either one of them. Going into the business early on, I would listen to all their music. And when you hear me sing, you might hear some things that I've incorporated in my way of singing from these ladies.
I do, from both of them.
So they were definitely, I love both of them. And I see them as totally different artists because they both have a style. They both have different styles and they come at you from a total different angles. Gladys, she has that smooth contralto. And of course, Patty is going to come at you with all the force of a soprano you ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
So they're two different artists, but they both had power. They both have power, and they show you a song from a whole different perspective, but you reach the same point.
Right.
You reach the same point when you hear them sing. You know that's real soul singing. And I listened to both of them. I can't wait to hear this, to see the verses, and because they both have great personalities and full of knowledge, full of knowledge. They both were kind and very knowledgeable because I didn't take it for granted that I had the opportunity to pick, just to sit and pick their brains about the industry and to talk to them about, you know, things and going into, because I was just going into my career. So to be able to talk to them and hear things, you know, that was going on around them and to see how they handle it and to see their temperament and what they would take and what they would not take and how much power and authority they had over their own careers.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times with women, you find yourself in one of the good old boys situation where men make all the decisions for you. But working with them, I saw how important it was. I saw how important it was to be able to be in control of what you were doing and singing things that touch you and that relate to you, and finding something within you that though the songs that you do touch.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not touched by it, you're just singing something and people are not going to ever feel anything from you.
Right. So I know that Christmas is going to come early for you as a result of this versus battle.
Absolutely, absolutely. I cannot wait.
So it's,
Actually, I was excited to hear Brandy,
mm-hmm.
and Monica, because those are two young queens that, hey, listen, if you looking at Patty and Gladys, then you're looking at Brandy and Monica down the road.
Right.
So if you're listening to Brandy and Monica and you're overjoyed, what you gonna do when Patty and Gladys have their way?
Exactly. And I'm peers with Brandy and Monica. We're around the same age. I've personally watched that battle 3 times already.
Yes, that's lovely. And when Brandy did Optimistic, I was totally overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
because I am definitely a staunch Brandy fan
Oh,
and
her vocals.
a
Whew.
Monica fan. The both
Right.
of them. I love. I did some promotional things with Monica, and every time we saw each other, it was just
Mm-hmm.
love. Being here in Atlanta as well, so I'm just grateful to have lived among those great artists and to be able to reflect back on their music and to enjoy them and hear them talk about in the moment when they were doing those songs, because it's such a joy to know what people were going through when they were doing those songs and what was happening, because
Right.
it puts it all to, it brings it all together for you.
Yeah, you definitely get a deeper meaning
Absolutely.
behind the creation.
Yes, yes,
Now, back to Miss Knight and Miss LaBelle.
yes.
Uh, I wish I could have an invite, have a reserved seat at the dinner table to have some of Miss Knight's chicken and waffles,
Listen,
Miss LaBelle's sweet potato pie, and I'm hearing about a soulful casserole that you
a
make.
soulful casserole. Yes, yes. I wonder where you got that from. But I've been talking about it forever, but it was a product that I developed when I was in the studio and I was recording my solo project. Well, actually working with Sounds of Blackness. And I was in there recording Sounds of Blackness product and for my project. So it kept me away from home quite a bit. And actually, in the beginning, I was working at Northeast Junior High School as a counselor and teacher's aide. And so I was working a job from 7 to 11. And then I would come home. I'll come home, cook to get things together for my children, prepare meals before I went to the studio, because I would have to be at the studio probably like 4 o'clock every day. So I was, thinking, I was like, Lord, I need something. I want to do something. I don't want them to have to just eat any old thing. I want them to have a balanced meal. And in the process of doing this, it's really hard, to be able to take care of a family and have a career. Um, so I knew, that my boys love soul food. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do something, try to pull something together soulful that I can put together, but still have them healthy.
Hmm.
So I pulled together some black-eyed peas. I know everybody loves some black-eyed peas and okra.
Hmm.
Or my youngest son and daughter, they didn't like okra, so I would make one without okra. But it had cornbread, it had cheese and all that stuff. And I found a way to cook it and put it all together. And it was like a whole meal in a pan. So that's how it became the soulful casserole, because it was just like a pan of gumbo.
Okay.
Kind of just like my music. So
Exactly. That's
and
the inspiration.
every time someone would come, or we were having dinner or having guests, my children would still ask for the soulful casserole. And then other people would um, taste it. And then they say, you should really do this. And when I was on the road doing shows with Dave Talbot and um, Tyler, I would cook sometimes. I would cook on the road when we would be on the road.
Hmm.
And I would cook the soulful casserole, and everybody, they would want the recipe. I said, I did not give you this recipe. I might have an opportunity. I have to fall back on this recipe. And lo and behold, the time came when I needed to cook that casserole to make it.
So it was pretty much an improvised recipe. It wasn't something else passed down.
No, it was something that came about trying to feed my family while I was
Okay.
trying to keep up with my career.
All right. All right. So let's transition into your acting career a little bit. You mentioned earlier that you did Broadway with Donald Lawrence, and you also was in the film Fighting Temptations with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Beyonce Knowles. But
Absolutely.
I wanted to get into I Know I've Been Changed. So this was the first play by Tyler Perry.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it was the first tour
Okay.
that Tyler did. And I think he toured it before I came. And then he was going to do 3 days in Atlanta at the House of Blues. And we did that show those 3 days and started getting calls and ended up doing almost 3 years
Wow.
and then some on uh without being on the tour, but um on and off dates as well afterwards. And it was really, really a great show. It had some great artists and a few of the Sounds of Blackness members, Quan Hao, my daughter, and my sister, Quan Hao, Cara Pertao, the
Hmm.
ones that lead Hold On.
Change is
Uh,
coming.
yes, they were a part of the show. Um, my sister, Miss Marie Graham, the one that brought me into Sounds of Blackness, she played a role, and my daughter, um, Jamesia Bennett, she was a part of the show as well. So, and the Pace sisters, LaShawn and Latrice,
Hmm.
were a part of the show. And I think even Byron Cage was out there with us for a few minutes. And hey, it was just chemistry that worked, and we were having a great time. And of course, with Tyler's wit and his knowledge, it was great. It was great. It was a great time, and it was a great show. Um, toured all over. We toured all over, and people were actually saved coming to that. They were coming to the altar at the end of the show, and Tyler was fair out preaching. That's what
Hmm.
was really going on.
Did you always see the ambitious side and the drive within Tyler to where we
I
have a
saw
billionaire that owns his own studio in Atlanta and about to build a
I saw
airport?
the drive. I saw the drive. I saw the determination in Tyler from the time he got in contact with me to do that first show.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't know about the play, and I happened to I had just moved to Atlanta, and I was on the radio. I think I might have been doing promos for Put It On Paper, in fact. And they opened the phone line, and Tyler called and said that he wanted to talk with me, and he had a show that he wanted to talk to me about, and I did that. And he came to the radio station, and that's how we met.
Hmm.
He called, and he was he was determined. He was determined. And after that, he came out to the house and showed me some of the script, and it was reading lines with me. And from there, it was it was uphill. It was
And
uphill.
uh-huh.
And he
That
told me that he was working with some people toward the end of the run, and he told me that it was going to be big. It was going to be really, really big. And I was working on another project because I was changing labels, and I think I might have done one more project with him. I think Marriage Counselor. What I think that ended up being another movie from that project.
okay. Yeah, continued blessings to Tyler and providing opportunities to all of us.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
so um, another moment that we were able to witness you in the public eye was your granddaughter, Paris Bennett, on American Idol. So
Yes,
so I'm
my
hearing I'm hearing that there's a story that she never wanted to follow in yours and your daughter's footsteps and become a musician?
She decided that there was enough singers in the family.
Right.
So she was going to be a doctor. She loved babies. She loved children. And she initially said, I want to be a doctor that bring babies into the world. That's how the first way we knew. She said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a doctor that brings the first person to see the babies come into the world. So I said, so that's what you're going to do? I said, all that talent you got, that's what you're going to be a doctor? I said, okay.
She would have
Yeah.
been singing those babies out, though.
Singing them out. And then she came and to live with me. And the first year Idol came up, she was not old enough to go. And the second year, she kept saying, she said, I think I want to do that. She kept saying, I said, you sure? I said, some hard work. And when she decided that she was going to do it, I just kept prepping her. And of course, her mother always was prepping her as well, the way I did her. Mm-hmm. So, and I was, teaching her other songs and other genres. And I would ask her about what she thought about songs in other genres, country music, jazz, and exposing her and letting her be exposed to all different genres of music. Because in watching Idol, I knew that every girl in America was going to sing Alicia Keys' song.
Right. Or Whitney.
Or Whitney, absolutely. And I said, that cannot be their first song that you audition with. So it was a kind of setting her up. But I wanted her. I went with her. I took her there, and I wanted her to stand in line. I stood in line with her because I didn't want to make it easy for her, because I didn't want it to be a lie for her. I wanted her to know that this business is glamorous, but it's hard work, and that she would be getting up sometimes. And I told her straight out, sometimes you'll be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be on the air, on the radio at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you're not going to be feeling like getting up and doing that. I said, but that's a part of working your project. I said, so you have to want this, and that all that goes along with a music career. I said, that's where this leads. It's not just getting up here singing for fun. I said, because people are spending money. So that's the reason why I took her through the whole process without talking to Randy or anybody I knew in the industry, to push her ahead, to have an advantage, because I wanted her to understand her own worth. Mm-hmm. And that's why you probably saw me so much standing in line with her and being there. In fact, Randy didn't know I was there until the day Paris was going in to be before her and Simon. Mm-hmm. And one of the other producers saw me and knew me from house music, from being, I think it might have been in New York. And he walked all the way, and I sat way all the way in the back. And he came in, and he was coming back to do something, and he stopped and he looked. He said, "Miss Nesby?" I said, "Yeah." Yeah. And he was like, "You got somebody here?" I said, "Yeah." Yeah. I said, "My granddaughter is." And I said, "But I'm not going to tell you who she is. I'm not going to tell you who she is until she wins her audition." And he said, "Fair enough." So that's how that went down. And for everybody that thought that I pushed her in there and gave her an advantage, I wanted her to see what it was to make it over thousands and to understand her worth and her, you know, her ability, and to understand that it's always kind of a sort of a competition, because you have to have something to offer. When you have a career, you have to have something to offer, something that you feel like will be different from the everyday, just uh, a background singer, it's a run-of-the-mill choir member. What are you going to offer? What are you bringing to the table? Can you hold the attention of an audience once you possess the stage? Can you keep their attention? And we talked about all those things, because you have to prepare yourself for a career in the business.
Right.
You have to keep renewing yourself, and you know, the message doesn't change, but the music may change.
Okay.
And
So,
I remember the older minister, as when I was a young child, and actually we were actually striking for buses,
mhm,
and we were going to school at the church, and they would have ministers come in talking about civil rights. And one of the older men came up to speak. I will never forget him. His name was Reverend Holman. And he was a very powerful civil rights activist. And he was the man that I knew in the community that they used to sell jets by subscription with people that went around in the neighborhood. And I knew him from coming to my house. So when he went up to talk, I was listening to him. And the one thing that I understood him to say, and that stayed with me all my life, I was thinking about it today. It's funny we'll be talking about it.
mhm,
He said, "What's going on?" He said, "What's going on in this country right now with racism and all those types of things? It's the same old soup warmed over.
ooh,
It's the same old soup warmed over." He said, it's nothing new. And I was a child. And not, today I'm 65.
mhm,
But to see things that are going on now, and to understand as a child what he was saying, it's like Oprah would say, an aha moment.
right.
Uh, Same soup, a different day.
Ooh. Hopefully we continue to make progress to where eventually we don't have to warm up that same soup.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we've come around the corner.
Hmm.
I believe we've come around the corner, because I, as I was talking earlier, when I was talking to you, I think we've all had a woke moment,
Hmm.
and we understand that things are not going to get better with our complaints, but our work ethic. And I think we have put in a bit more work at being responsible for letting people understand what it is to have a life that matters.
Right.
And I'm so excited during this era to be living. I felt like Representative Lewis, to be able for him. I'm nowhere near who he was, but just the idea, I felt like my mother felt the day, the night that Barack announced his presidency.
Hmm.
I saw the tears from my mother and my father's eyes when I saw how we were standing up and coming forward in numbers and standing together. It blesses your heart. It really blesses your heart to understand that we're making an effort. We're making more of an effort than we ever have before. I believe that in my heart. And we're going to see our expected end. And this is not the time to give up, cave in, or quit. This is the time to press. This is the time to press, because it gets the hardest. It gets the hardest when you're about to reach your goal.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful message. Beautiful message. So, before I let you go, anything you'd like to plug? New music? Working on any plays that I guess eventually, once COVID goes away, that
Well,
we will see you in?
actually, I'm working on a couple new projects, um, theater and live with virtual. I'm doing a show for AARP with um, Garrett. I can't even think of Garrett's last name. Listen at me. But it deals with people that have underlying health issues. Um, and this particular one is dealing with COVID um, and bipolar disorder. So I'll be doing that real soon in October. I'll get you the dates.
Okay.
And I'm also working on a virtual project of animation. It's a project called Moontown.
Okay.
It's going to be very funny, very informative, because it deals with people in the industry that have been working hard, trying to make it, and the opposition that they come up against, and the years that they struggle to make it. When you think you see a pop-up artist, and then you find out they've been working for years trying to break in, and how they branch out and go into different areas of the music industry. So it's going to be really good. And then I have some new music that's coming about. And like I said, I have some house music that we're going to be releasing real soon.
Right.
And speaking of Reverend Al Green, my manager was speaking with him, because I have another song that goes with that, Put It on Paper.
Okay.
You know, you have to have an outcome when you tell
Right.
somebody what you expect and your standards. People want to know what your outcome was.
Exactly.
So I wrote a song called You Kept Your Word.
Nice.
So I'll be having that coming out pretty soon. And so nobody knows that.
Okay. Well, breaking news on Stop Look and Listen.
Breaking news on Stop Looking.
Breaking news. Yes. I love it. I mean, because your voices blend so well together, with the soul and the
I
gospel background. So,
absolutely loved working with him, and he was amazing to watch in the studio. And he would give everything he had, and it was wonderful to watch his work ethic and just to watch him work.
right.
I carried that on with me. So and I had an opportunity as well to do a promotional tour for Put It on Paper with him across the country. It was a blessing to my life as well.
Okay. So there's no talks of a G3 album with yourself, your daughter Jamesia, and your granddaughter Paris. Is that gonna come to light?
We tried to pull it together. Then everybody started doing a different project and working on different things. But Paris does have new music that's coming. I just heard one of her songs, and it's an animated video that's out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love it. It's really cute, and it fits her. So she's roaring back. So who knows? There may be something special that we'll be able to pull together and do something.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe something Christmas
Nice.
when family is together.
That's a perfect time. All right. So, Miss Ann Nesby, it has been a pleasure. Like
Thank
I've said, Optimistic is my favorite song of all time.
Thank you so
Your
much.
voice has gotten me through it. I'm telling you.
Those are the things that get us as artists through. Being able to hear, people don't realize when you testify about how the work that we've done has blessed you, it blesses us because we're only vessels of the gift that God has given us. So when we share what God has given us and we hear the returns, it blesses us as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, no
Thank you
problem.
so much. And
Truly
to
an honor.
everybody that's ever listened to anything I've done, thank you. And continue to pray for me, and I'll pray for you. And we'll just keep going and just trust in God, and we're going to make it.
Exactly. As long as you keep your head to the
And
sky. So for Stop, Look, and Listen, this is LaTroy Gardner signing off. See you next week.
Thank you for checking us out on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe for more great content. And don't forget to check out our website at gobradionetwork.com.